Fred Dowd's life was truly a Horatio Alger story. Through hard work, determination, integrity, perseverance, and singular focus, he rose from a humble background to prominence in the Cincinnati banking community, ultimately becoming the president and chairman of the board of the First National Bank, which was Cincinnati's largest bank. Fred grew up at the turn of the century. His only frame of reference, his family farm in rural Owen County, Kentucky. Even then, he knew he would be a banker.
My father was a proud Kentuckian. He was born on a farm right down the river, and he was also a bigger-than-life character. He left the farm, but the farm was a big part of who he was. So he loved to gather the family together, and we would all drive down to have Sunday lunch with my Uncle Robert on the farm. And we'd have beaten biscuits and country ham and fried chicken.
By the time he graduated from high school, Fred had negotiated the first step in a nearly 50-year banking career. In 1924, he became a clerk at the Citizens Bank in New Liberty, Kentucky, working the first 6 months for free, then receiving a salary of $25 a month. But it was all the start Fred needed. He soon went to other small Kentucky banks, taking on more and more responsibilities, always seeing ahead, always staying on top of trends, always successful. He moved up quickly. Just before he turned 30, Fred was a founder and the chief administrative officer of the Kentucky State Bank at Carrollton. And then, just 2 years later, Fred was named president of the First National Bank in Henderson, Kentucky. Inside the business, Fred had a well-earned reputation for being enthusiastic, principled, and extremely knowledgeable about finance and economic trends. But with the bank's customers, Fred was better known for his understanding, compassion, and deep regard for people. Fred's remarkable range landed him in Cincinnati in 1944. He had already served the Kentucky banking industry for 20 years with great success, and he was just 38. He was named vice president of First National Bank and put in charge of its Department of Banks. This meant he was responsible for First National's network of affiliated banks in Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois, West Virginia, and other states. He held this title for 5 years and was then recruited to become president of Atlas National Bank in Cincinnati, where he tripled the bank's resources in just about 6 years. With a track record like that, Atlas was an attractive acquisition target, with Fred as a most valuable asset. So in 1955, Atlas was merged with First National Bank of Cincinnati, and Fred was elected president of the combined institutions. He was also named to its board of directors. Over the next decade, with Fred at the helm, First National Bank prospered. It served the region's growing number of mid-size and large corporations. It also began to accelerate its expansion of branch banking, serving the needs of families and smaller neighborhood businesses. Fred was elected chairman of the board of First National Bank in 1964 and served in that role until his retirement in 1971. Along the way, Fred held leadership positions in banking organizations, including serving as director of the Cincinnati branch of the Federal Reserve Bank and president of the Board of Governors of the Cincinnati Bankers Club.
I was hired by Fred Dowd in 1958, and at the end of the interview, he made the comment that we're dealing with other people's money and we only do banking the proper way here. That certainly set the tone for Mr. Dowd's administration. He loved to compete in the world of commercial banking, and he was a role model for future generations of bankers.
Fred Dowd was a legendary figure at U.S. Bank, and he still remains one today. U.S. Bank leadership, we care deeply about our teams, our communities, our clients. And Fred embodied that, and he lived it. And I would say his name is still evoked today within the halls of U.S. Bank.
Something else you might not know about my father is that he was actually a very sentimental guy. He really was a softie. At the bank, I know my father was perceived as a tough guy, and he ran that bank with an iron fist. But at home, he really wasn't like that. He was a disciplinarian, but he could be the sweetest, he could be like a little puppy dog. And we used to watch the Bob Hope Christmas special together, all of our family, and he would cry. And I don't know what it was about that show that touched his heart, but he was just mush. And it's just a side of my father that a lot of people never saw.
Fred, I knew Fred because I was a small child, not, I'd say about 8 or so, when I first met Fred. And he came home with my father, and my father and he were very, very close as friends. And they liked the smoked cigars, and they liked things they shouldn't do necessarily, and they loved making deals. They really were good, and they were very nice guys. I love him.
He also served on the boards of leading Cincinnati companies, including Cincinnati Gas and Electric Company, the New Orleans and Texas Pacific Railroad, the Midland Company, the William Powell Company, the Vulcan Corporation, and WCKY.
Daddy told me when he was a little boy that he knew he wanted to be a banker or a train conductor. Well, he grew up to be a banker, and he grew up to be a great banker. But he also never lost his love of trains. And we took trains all over the country. We had the best time. And I have pictures of Daddy and I in Union Terminal, hamming it up together in the photo booth before we were about to hop on a train. And it all came full circle when he became a director of the railroad.
And Fred was an enthusiastic partner in the region's civic and educational community. He was a benefactor and trustee of Transylvania University in Lexington and the College of Mount St. Joseph. He served as chairman of the Cincinnati chapter of the National Conference of Christians and Jews and was chairman of the University of Cincinnati President's Club. Fred's influence in business and banking is nearly as legendary as his very presence was in his time. There was his ever-present cigar, his gruff but friendly manner, his 6-day work week, and his daily lunch at the Queen City Club, the Old Sinton Hotel, or the Bankers Club. He was politely called colorful, which helps to explain the Dowd. It was a sandwich that was on the menu at the Bankers Club for 49 years. Named in Fred's honor, the delicacy was served on toasted sourdough bread and consisted of sliced tomato, bacon, melted cheddar cheese, and a special topping. Perhaps a bit over the top. But would anything less be as fitting for someone with the impact of Fred Dowd? In 1974, when he died far too young at the age of 68, the local newspaper summed up his nearly 50-year banking career in this way. Mr. Dowd's career was an almost classic commentary on the awards of diligence, integrity, vision, and honor.